Hello, thank you for attending our webinar today on how to use Pinterest for business. We have a fabulous presentation. The two presenters will be Sam McRoberts, who is the SEO lead at Pointit, and Jessica Fisher, who is one of our client managers. But before we get started, a little bit about Pointit. Pointit was launched in April of 2002. We are Seattle's largest independent search marketing company, leading with products like paid search management and SEO. Last year we managed $30 million in media budgets, and we service clients across all verticals and revenue models. And now for a little bit of housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded, and we will upload it to the website. So if you missed part of the presentation, never fear. It's going to be emailed out to you a little bit later this week with a copy of the deck as well. Also, we encourage all people that are listening in to ask questions during the presentation, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have a question and we don't get it answered, we'll make sure that we follow up after the presentation a little bit later this week. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Fisher, who's going to be telling us a little bit about what Pinterest is and how you can use it.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I'll be talking to you a little bit about Pinterest. So if you don't know what Pinterest is, you may have been living in a cave for the past 6 months, but for those of you who do need a little bit of an explanation, Pinterest is a visual bookmarking and discovery engine with a social component. You can comment, follow, like, and share your Pinterest with Facebook and Twitter friends. It's like a combination of Delicious, which is an online bookmarking tool from a couple years ago, Flickr, the online site to store photographs, and Amazon wishlist, all blended together. It's a place where you can collect and organize all the cool things that you find as you spend time online, as well as adding in your personal memories to the mix. Pinterest was originally launched in March 2010 as a closed beta and is now an invitation-only open beta. In August 2011, Time magazine listed Pinterest in its 50 best websites of 2011, and in March 2012, Pinterest became the third largest social networking site in the United States, surpassing both LinkedIn and Tagged. The link on this slide will take you to the page on Pinterest with excellent FAQs and walkthroughs of the site. I would definitely suggest checking this out for anyone who's considering having a presence on Pinterest. So, what is the need fulfilled by Pinterest, you might ask? Pinterest is filling the need to visually organize all of your interests. I love using it because I'm not that good at remembering things, whether it be craft ideas, quotes, or recipes. Having a visual, colorful place to organize and store these ideas and discover new ones and then share them with my friends is very valuable to me. And this is an example of what a basic Pinterest page looks like. This is actually my Pinterest page, which I'm pretty proud of, but feel free to judge me a little bit. Right now, though, brand pages are exactly the same as individuals pages. Pinterest hasn't yet differentiated brand pages like Facebook does with individual profiles and fan pages. So essentially, almost any larger size image on the web can be pinned to a virtual corkboard through a browser bookmarklet, which is a little piece of code that sits in your bookmark folder in your favorite web browser. This allows you to organize and share images you find across the web on various boards. Boards can be organized around topics, brands, products, really any way you want to organize your images. I say almost any image because Pinterest just introduced a snippet of code that websites can put on their own site that actually prevents Pinterest and Pinterest users from pinning their images. You can also upload your own pictures if you want to, and this can be really great for, organizing images that have been on your computer and getting rid of those to-do lists, putting everything in one place in a very visual way. And as you can see here, like I said, this is my Pinterest page. I have my craft ideas. I have like 800 craft ideas that I want to use. The one that's showing right now is melted crayon art, which I actually tried. I'm like halfway through it, but sitting in my living room, I need to actually finish the craft project so I can put it on my wall.
That melted crayon art is actually really cool. My wife saw that and showed it to me the other day, and she now has that on her to-do list, melt some crayons into a really cool painting. Definitely awesome.
And anyway, and yeah, and I also have, you know, my favorite products on here that I probably shouldn't buy, and cute pictures of puppies and places I want to go, and it's just really great. I love the visual effect of Pinterest. Overall, it's just great to remember that images did play a huge role in the growth of Facebook and their acquisition of Instagram, and it really is the heart of Pinterest growth as well. So why should you care about Pinterest? Since launching in March 2010, which is about the same time as Instagram launched, but I mean, who uses Instagram? Instagram is for hipsters. Just kidding. Pinterest has grown to over 17 million users worldwide and is now the third largest social networking site on the planet based on unique visits. According to Statista and ComScore, Pinterest users spend an average of 89 minutes per month on the site, which is second only to Facebook and is tied with Tumblr. In addition to this, ComScore reported that in January of this year, the site had 11.7 million unique U.S. visitors, which makes it the fastest site ever to break through the 10 million unique visitor mark. A recent study by Shareaholic found that Pinterest actually drives more referral traffic than Twitter and more than Google+, YouTube, and LinkedIn combined. Some sites are even reporting Pinterest as their largest source of referral traffic.
And referral traffic is huge because it's essentially free traffic. I mean, you're not having to pay anything to get these people to your site from another site. And referral traffic from a site like Pinterest, I mean, these people are seeing your images, reading your descriptions, possibly even seeing the price of whatever it is you have up there. And so if they're choosing to click through and go to your site with all of that information already, you could really consider them pre-qualified referral traffic. You know, they're much more likely to convert because they have that information already. So Pinterest referral traffic, definitely something to go after.
Yeah, and in addition to this, the demographics of Pinterest are also really interesting. The site has been the most popular with American women in the U.S. Currently, 83% of the U.S. users are female. It's also interesting, apparently in Britain, 56% of Pinterest users are male, and the age profile is about 10 years younger than those in the U.S., which is, I think, 35 to 45. Anyway, considering roughly 85% of consumer purchases are made by women and most users on Pinterest are women, Pinterest is definitely the place to be if you have something to sell. So there are a lot of companies that are already using Pinterest, but there are a lot that aren't too. And some are using it well while some aren't using it that well yet. The above companies are off to a really good start and each has products and images on their Pinterest accounts that are very visually attractive and worth sharing. Here you see we have Clarisonic. They put a lot of their product images with different designs on the site because they have a lot of different designs for their face brushes, and I'll be talking about the Clarisonic Pinterest page a little bit more later. And then we have Coca-Cola. I'm sure everyone knows that Coca-Cola is so well known that they could have pictures of polar bears on their Pinterest and everyone would think of Coca-Cola. There's Nordstrom's, who has an entire bulletin board on their Pinterest with Boo the Pom-Pom being in their Nordstrom stores. And if you guys don't know who Boo is, I don't really know Boo's history, but he has 4 million likes on his Facebook page, which is pretty crazy. And I guess that he's a pretty popular little dog. And then we have the monkey up there, which is ThinkGeek. And then we have Blue Nile, which is the largest online jewelry store.
And I insisted on making sure that ThinkGeek was represented on here because they're one of my favorite sites. I'm a huge nerd. Lots of cool stuff there. Yeah.
So all of the businesses in Pinterest that it's working well for have one thing in common. They're all B2C businesses. Most sell things online, and these examples are of pretty well-known brands, but there is a great opportunity for businesses outside of e-commerce and also businesses that are less well-known and are really just trying to gain brand awareness and coverage through effective activity on Pinterest, and this is a great opportunity for those companies as well. Pinterest isn't for absolutely everyone, though. If your business is such that you can't convey what you do and sell in a visually appealing way, you might want to sit this out. For example, if you were a tow truck company or a computer repair company, you may not have images that are that visually attractive or interesting, and they might not get that much visibility, and it could possibly do more harm than good.
I don't know though about the tow truck example. I mean, I could totally see putting an image of Mater, from Cars up on the bulletin board. Tow Mater, totally would fit. So maybe a tow truck company could pull this off with a little bit of creativity.
Haha, that's a good point. Also, just keep in mind that the majority of Pinterest users are women, especially in the United States. But this doesn't mean that male-centric businesses and products and images don't have a place on Pinterest. But you should just keep in mind that they will probably get less visibility and will have a harder time becoming viral. So I just wanted to give a few examples of when you can use Pinterest even if you don't sell something online. This is the Whole Foods Pinterest page, and Whole Foods is a great example of a company that doesn't sell anything online but has an enormous following on Pinterest. They have a lot of different boards, mostly based on different types of food and food ideas for different seasons of the year, and different containers to put your food in. And so Whole Foods actually is one of the top followed Pinterest pages with over 26,000 followers. And it's just great to see with Whole Foods. We all know that with brand loyalty, having a community online for your customers is very important, and Whole Foods is really making that happen with their Pinterest account. And this is another example of how to use Pinterest outside of e-commerce. This time Pinterest was used to promote a 5K run called the Color Run. I don't know how many of you out there have heard about the Color Run, but I initially began to see Color Run photos on Pinterest in December and January. I'm on Pinterest a lot, but anyway, the images that they use and that I saw are all very eye-catching. They're very colorful. This run is cool because you're supposed to wear all white, and then as you run this 5K, they spray you with all these different colors. And anyway, so their images just totally went viral on Pinterest. And so anyway, registration for the Seattle Color Run this year opened at the beginning of April, and I was really hoping to sign up for it, but the registration ended up filling out in 2 hours and was sold out, so I totally missed my chance, and I'm a little bummed. But anyway, it's just crazy and interesting to see how quickly and how this sold out after becoming so viral on Pinterest.
So Pinterest is awesome. Lots of people use it. That's great. But where do you start? Just when you thought you'd mastered the like and the tweet, along comes the pin. And like a maze, social media can get a bit confusing, but believe it or not, Pinterest is actually very straightforward. In the following slides, we're going to give you everything you need to know to get your business up and running on Pinterest. To do this, we're going to be covering 12 key points. So number 1, how to create and configure a Pinterest account. Number 2, Pinterest etiquette, the do's and don'ts. 3, the basics of using Pinterest. 4, optimizing your images for Pinterest. 5, pinning your images. 6, making it easy for others to pin your photos. 7, tell your visitors that you're on Pinterest. 8, getting SEO value from Pinterest. 9, using Pinterest for e-commerce. 10, using Pinterest for affiliate revenue. 11, tracking Pinterest data. And 12, copyrights and legal concerns. So step number 1, create an account for your business. Now with your own account, you can get a head start by pinning your own images and organizing those into boards of your choosing. You can set your titles, set the descriptions for those boards, get a little bit of seed control if people haven't started really pinning your images yet. Of course, Pinterest is still dishing out access on an invite system, so it may take a little bit of time before you're able to actually get in, but not too much. Most people are on, within a day or two. So as you can see here, the first thing you want to do when creating your account is try and grab your company name as the username. When you do that, your username will also be in your URL on Pinterest. So in this example, pinterest.com/Nordstrom. While there are currently no separate personal versus business accounts, hopefully there will be in the not too distant future. Along those lines, Pinterest can't yet be linked to a Facebook business account or a fan page. You can connect it to your Facebook, but can't specifically tie it to the business portion of that. So we would recommend connecting with your business Twitter account, or at the very least use the same email address you use for Twitter. So as you're doing this, as you're creating your profile, make sure to fill it out completely, including adding in a really good description of your company URL, your location, your logo. And of course, each company page shows the activity on that page, the number of likes, followers, pins, repins, etc. Definitely something to keep an eye on as a company. You can see what kind of traction you're getting.
And step 2, you want to learn Pinterest etiquette. If you're going to get the most out of Pinterest, you should prepare yourself to be a valuable part of that community. This is just a list of etiquette or a list of the different things that Pinterest wants you to follow when you are running your Pinterest page. Be respectful, be authentic, credit your sources, report objectionable content, and tell them how to make Pinterest better. The link below takes you to the page on Pinterest that describes all of these different points that they have. But just taking time to look around Pinterest and view other people's boards and see how other people are doing things will really help you to get a grasp on how to use this site. And like any social network, the more active you are in the community, the more you're going to get out of it. With that said, being active does not mean constant self-promotion. Everyone is seeing companies on Twitter or Facebook who never do anything but promote their own products or services. Don't be that company. Spend at least half your time engaging with the community, liking, pinning, repinning, commenting, and following other pinners. Being social and interacting with others in a natural way is the best way to increase your brand visibility on Pinterest.
Step number 3, learn the basics of using Pinterest. So you have your account, and you've brushed up on basic Pinterest etiquette. Now it's time to start pinning. Your first step will be to make sure you have your Pin It button installed in your browser. Now you should have done this during your account setup, but if for some reason you haven't done it yet, you can find everything you need to do to set this up on the Pinterest Goodies page. Once your button's installed, you'll see a little Pin It button like this in your browser. Now just go to any page on the web that has an image you want to pin, and click the Pin It button. You can also pin videos, but currently only if it's a YouTube video. And we're hoping that'll change in the not too distant future, because there are a lot of really cool video sites out there. When you click your Pin It button, a new window will pop up showing every image on that page that's large enough to pin. Just hover over the image or video that you want and click the Pin to Pinterest button that pops up. You know, in this example, I couldn't resist using a Tauntaun sleeping bag from ThinkGeek. So who can forget that scene in Empire Strikes Back where poor freezing Luke is tucked into a sliced open Tauntaun? You know, now you can have your very own piece of movie history, only not quite as smelly. Once you do that and click, you choose the image you want to add, you get a pop-up window that allows you to pick which pin board you want to add that image to. And at the same time, you'll be able to set the description. So if you're pinning your own image, make sure to include a URL in that description, and if relevant, a price. Finally, once you've set all that up, click Pin It. You'll get the final pop-up with the option to go see your pin, tweet your pin, or share that pin on Facebook. And boom, you're done. That's everything you need to know to use Pinterest to add images to your own pin boards. But now it's time to learn how to get around inside of Pinterest. So when you're on Pinterest and you hover over one of your pins, you'll see the option to either edit the pin or set your board cover. Now you can define which image in a pin board shows as the cover of that board, and that's definitely something you want to do. You know, you may have dozens, possibly even hundreds of images in there, and you're going to want to set your board cover as the most eye-catching, you know, the best example of what's in that pin board. By doing that, you're going to get a better click-through rate, more interaction with that pin board. So definitely take the time to go past the default image and pick something that's a good fit. You can also go in and edit individual pins after you've pinned something up. And this allows you to change which board that pin is attached to. You can change the target URL, and you can edit the description. So in this instance, I actually decided to add a price to this description after I pinned it. And when you do that, you use the $ in your description with a price, and it just puts a little banner across the corner of that pin so you can see how much that costs. Now, I've heard pros and cons with this. Some people say it kind of detracts from the usability of Pinterest. Other people swear by it. Personally, I'm a fan. I use Pinterest to kind of collect all of the different things that I like and might want to buy. So it's really helpful for me to be able to go back and see what the price of something was so that when I'm ready to buy it, you know, I have an easy reference to do that. As you can see in the description, I also try to use really good keywords that would make this pin easy for other people to find. I have Star Wars, I use Tauntaun, sleeping bag. I probably could have used ThinkGeek in this description as well. Just keep keywords in mind when writing these descriptions to make it easier for people who are searching to find what you've pinned up. Now, on your Pinterest homepage, you'll have two distinct areas to pay attention to, and a number of options. So first, on the left, you'll have your basic news feed, very Facebook style, which shows recommendations for people you might want to follow, and the recent activity of the people you're already following, such as their pins, repins, likes, comments, etc. To get the most out of Pinterest, again, we recommend spending at least half your time, adding images, tweaking your pin boards, but spend the other half of your time or more interacting with others. Follow people, repin their pins, comment on their pins, like their pins. Just be social. You're going to get the most out of Pinterest by being an active part of the community. The second part of the home page is the pin feed. So by default, this is going to show you the most recent pins from the people that you follow, as well as your own pins. However, you have the ability to change this to show you everything, all the most recent pins on Pinterest, specific sections of the site, whether that's food or art. You can have this show you only the most recent pins or the most popular pins in those sections. You can have it show you only videos that have been pinned. You can have it show you only the most popular pins. Definitely something to go through and try out. Play with this, see which you prefer. By going through each of these, you're going to be more likely to find new and awesome things that you can start pinning. Of course, as you interact with others' pins, you'll have three key options: repin, like, or comment. As people interact with a pin, the stats are updated and the comments are visible. Much like a Facebook post. You'll be able to see those comments, see how many people have pinned or repinned something. And I can't emphasize enough the value of interacting with others on Pinterest. Be a part of the community. And that's really it, Pinterest in a nutshell. There are other things that you can do, but those are the basics for you to really get started and dive in. Step number 4, optimize your images for Pinterest. So now that you know how to use Pinterest, you need to learn how to make your website as Pinterest friendly as possible. So I'm a huge foodie. At least half the things on my bucket list involve like trips to this or that restaurant around the world. I love food. So this is my foodie Pinterest page. And as you can see, every image on here has something in common. It's really sharp. They're really high quality images. So that said, high quality photos are an absolute must. If you don't have high quality photos, attractive photos on your site, consider hiring a professional photographer to take some new photos for you. So the better your images are, the more likely they are to get traction on Pinterest. That said, when you're optimizing images on your site for Pinterest, keep in mind that there's a limit to the width of images. So Pinterest, on the zoomed in pages, your images will be a maximum of 554 pixels wide. It's a little over 7 inches. But at the same time, there's no vertical limit. So if you picture like an infographic, it's kind of narrow and really, really long. So try to make your images at least 554 pixels in width and as short or as long as you think fits.
You do want to make sure, though, that your images aren't too long. I know you can't zoom in on Pinterest, so I know like before when I've been looking on Pinterest, I'll click on an infographic and it zooms in, or it takes you to the infographic page, but you can't actually zoom in to read anything, and I think that kind of detracts people from looking at those pins. So just make sure that it's not so long that no one can actually decipher what's in the picture once they click on it, because you're probably not going to get a very good click-through rate back to your site from images like that.
That's a good point. At the same time, keep in mind you can use lower resolution images if you need to, but if the resolution is too low, Pinterest won't allow you to pin it. So from what I've seen, 85 pixels minimum in each direction. That kind of seems like the low-end cutoff. Also, the maximum thumbnail width, so what you're seeing here on this page, or thumbnails, is 192 pixels wide, so 2.5 inches or so. You want to make sure, as you're sizing your images, at the very least, make sure the images on your site are 192 pixels wide or wider, so that they'll at least appear full size for these thumbnails. But ideally, make them at least 554 pixels wide, so that you can take up, the maximum amount of screen real estate on Pinterest. Also, make sure that the images on your site have keyword-rich image names and alt tags that accurately describe the image. And make sure that your Pinterest pins, the ones that you're adding yourself, make good use of search for keywords in the descriptions. And that's the little black text you're seeing underneath each of these images. Because pins are making it into Google image search, the more you can optimize your content for search, the better. And once you have optimized images up, if you didn't already, you can go ahead and get started with creating your own pin boards and pinning your own images.
So now I'm going to talk a little about pinning your own images, best practices for that. But first of all, just a little overview of the company. The example we're using, this is Threadless, and they're a community-based t-shirt company that prints designs that are created by their customers onto t-shirts.
And I actually love Threadless as well. One of my favorite t-shirts, it's a rip on Angry Birds, I actually got on Threadless. It was called Furious Foul. But this is another one I absolutely had to have in here. Love Threadless, so there's another plug.
So, thanks Sam. Once you have optimized your images, your next step will be to get started creating your own pin boards to pin your images on. How you organize your company's photos on Pinterest is really important. Just as you would structure your website and web pages to be keyword rich and easy to navigate, you should also organize your Pinterest like this. Group pins into logical collections. As you can see below, Threadless has organized their boards by topic. They have music and different decals, etc. Make sure that you fill in the descriptions for each individual pin board, the pin title, and the pin description. Use existing keyword research, really dig into your analytics for the names and descriptions, look at your organic keywords, see what's converted on your site. You already have the research and the data, so make sure you're using keywords that people are searching for and using the data that has already helped your site to get the most visibility that you can. And you can also use Twitter-style hashtags in your descriptions.
So there's some pros and cons to that. I've seen some pins that are just stuffed full of hashtags, really, really crappy. But, we recommend, if it's relevant, use one or maybe two hashtag keywords to describe this pin. You do that just by using the pound sign and then a word, all together. What this does, if you choose to push out something you've pinned to Twitter, that hashtag, which is a function on Twitter, is going to make it easy to slip those pins into a keyword-themed stream on Twitter. Of course, it's not going to do any good if you're not pushing these out to Twitter, so just kind of be selective. Pinterest, when you do searches on, it's going to read through the whole description. You don't have to have a hashtag in there for it to show up. If you just use a keyword in your description, it'll be fine. But if you are going to kick it out to Twitter, definitely consider using one, maybe two hashtags if it's relevant.
So if something that you've pinned mentions or shows an individual, like for Threadless, because they use prints that are designed by their customers, consider using their Twitter handle if they're active on Twitter in your description as well. And now on Pinterest you can also, like the Twitter handle, tag people that are with their Pinterest name. So you could use the @ symbol and then do their Pinterest name, and it will notify them on Pinterest that you tagged them in something that you thought they might like. That way, so if your pin gets kicked out to Twitter, you would have more visibility than you would otherwise have. And as mentioned earlier, if your site sells products, you can easily add the price sticker to your pinned images just by adding the $ and then the price in your pin description. For example, if the description says $50, a little banner that says the name will appear in the corner of your pinned image. And doing this will really, as long as you know that you want your price point in the description and with your product, then doing this will really drive pre-qualified referral traffic to your site.
Step number 6, make your photos easy to pin. So if you have high quality images on your website, and hopefully you do after our recommendation, and you want people pinning those images to Pinterest, you want to make sure that each such image has its own Pin It button. So this URL here, you can go there on the Pinterest goodies page and get the code for this button. So Threadless, in the previous example, they're a crowdsourced t-shirt company. They really do a great job of this. You go to their website, each of their different t-shirt designs has its own Pin It button. So unlike a Pinterest button that just points to your company page, this Pin It button needs to be created for each and every individual image that you want people to pin. Now it's not necessary. I mean, you can pin something from a site without the Pin It button. But the upside is that using this Pin It button gives you a little more control. The downside, if your site has thousands or tens of thousands of images, this could get to be a little unwieldy. However, the potential upside is enormous. So as you can see, when you create these pin it buttons, you get to select the URL of that image, the URL of the page to link that pin to, and the default description for the pin, which can include a followed link back to your site as well, for now. But doing this gets you some additional control over what images are pinned, where they point, how they're described. Of course, people can edit all of those things, but many are just going to go with this default description. So if you can't do this for every image on your site, at least consider creating a unique pin it button for your top images to try and get a little bit of that control over how things are being described. On the flip side, if you have a page or even an entire website and you don't want people pinning images from that page or site, you can add this code to the head section on each page or to every page on the site that you don't want people pinning from. So it can be a little complicated. If you're not a tech or dev person, probably don't try and implement this code yourself. Have your developer do it. But if there is a page that you don't want people pinning from, you can use this and Pinterest will respect that. Step number 7, tell visitors you're on Pinterest. So while some people are going to find you naturally, it's best to point people in the right direction. Along with the de facto Twitter, Facebook, and other social buttons you have on your website, you're going to want to add a Follow Us on Pinterest button as well to let people know about your presence there. Buttons are really easy to add, and you already have made a part of this button's already been made a part of a number of button aggregators like Add This. So again, you can just go to the Pinterest goodies page and find the code for this and get it up on your site. At the same time, make sure that you've connected your Twitter profile to Pinterest, and if you can ever connect directly to a Facebook business page, you're going to want to connect that as well, so that when you pin something new, you have the ability to push that out to your Twitter followers or Facebook followers. And let people know in Facebook and Twitter, consider adding it to your Twitter description if you think it fits, but tell people on each of your social profiles, hey, we're now on Pinterest, we have a lot of really cool images up there. If you want to follow us there, check out what we're doing, please, this is where to go. Of course, at the same time, if you're going to be pinning a lot of images and you think it's going to be so many that you might start to annoy your followers, you might want to consider opting out of this or only tweeting or sending to Facebook certain pins, certain images that you think would have a really good chance at grabbing attention or going viral. Step number 8, my favorite, getting SEO value from pins. So I would never recommend abusing any website. And Pinterest by default makes the links from a pin no follow, which means that those links aren't really passing much, if any, SEO value. But for now, it appears like pins, like a description, a link inside of a description, still is a followed link. So those are still passing SEO value. And that might change. I really wouldn't be surprised if it does. But for the time being, this means that if someone pins an image that links back to your site, and if a link is used in that description, which is something you can control with that pin it button, you're getting a followed link from a high authority domain. And this is really valuable from an SEO perspective. Of course, keep in mind that nofollow is always a suggestion, and search engines will use social signals wherever they find them, followed or not. So even though not all links on Pinterest officially pass link juice or SEO value, you're still almost certain to get a boost on the social signal front from each and every pin. You see, Google has limited access to Facebook and Twitter data. A lot of that is behind, a wall that Google just can't get to. And as we know, Google Plus is more of a third sock than anything else. So with Pinterest now being the 3rd most popular social network in the world and still totally open to Google for crawling, you can bet your bottom dollar that Google and other search engines are going to find a way to integrate the popularity on Pinterest with their ranking algorithms, if they haven't done so already.
Optimizing Pinterest for e-commerce. So if you have an e-commerce site and you want Pinterest to function as something of a virtual showroom, you want it as a place to interact with your customers, follow these 4 specific steps below. 1, be really smart about what you pin. Use your analytics data and start by pinning your best-selling products. Remember, they better be visually appealing. Use those high-quality images that you've taken. You may also want to consider adding timely products as well, like seasonal products, Christmas products, things like that. 2, be very thoughtful about how you write your pin description. Again, if you have analytics data, make sure you're looking at the keywords that drive conversions to your site and for the different products so that you can use these in your descriptions, and just that's the best way to integrate your description on Pinterest. Number 3, if your price point is an integral part of your conversion process, include a price with your pins. Simply include your price in the pin description, making sure to use the dollar symbol. And if you don't want your price showing, just make sure that you don't use the dollar symbol in your pin description. If you offer something special like free shipping or coupon codes, things like that, consider including that info in the pin description as well.
So I feel that all slide decks and webinars are incomplete without at least one reference to bacon. I love bacon. What can I say? So in this image, you see bacon bandages on Amazon. And currently the description is bandages for the bacon lover with 2 hashtags, wacky and Amazon. I think a much better description for this would have been the coolest bacon bandages ever. Nothing makes wounds heal faster than a delicious bacon Band-Aid. $5.99, free shipping plus 10% off with coupon code, whatever, if you happen to offer a coupon code. So if you're really considering using Pinterest as kind of a virtual showroom for some of your products, being more thoughtful with the description to tell people, hey, look, this is for sale, there's a price, we have something special like a discount or a coupon code, that would help a lot more with making traffic coming to your site a little more qualified. And that qualified referral traffic is something you really want. So just be thoughtful, and you'll see the benefits.
So I'm just going to give you some examples of different e-commerce brands and how well they're using, and that we think are good examples of how to use Pinterest. Just as a disclaimer, this is Clarisonic, and they're one of our clients, but we don't actually run their Pinterest. I just thought it was a really great example. So as you can see, they have different boards. They have a board for their face brushes, really colorful, and then they have a board for one of their other products as well. But the rest of their boards are not really related to their products. So although they have their best-selling products up there, they're also trying to create a community for their customers, and they have, a board for celebrities that use their product and a board for their favorite like face cleansing creams to use with their products, and fashion and makeup, and they have all of these things that their base of probably mostly female clients will also be attracted to and want to look at and want to repin as well. And this is just a great example of bringing a community to your customers on Pinterest. And then we have Lowe's, and Lowe's, just the vertical home improvement is a fantastic vertical to have for Pinterest, because Pinterest is already so centered around home design and organization and craft projects and things like that. And they're doing a great job because they're putting all of their different products in board themes, and so I'm pretty sure they have their products in all of these different boards, which is unlike the previous example. But they have barbecuing and gardening and yard and spring products, and they also have a craft board, which is really, really relevant to Pinterest because Pinterest is so centered around crafts, and this is just another great example.
Step number 10, using Pinterest to make affiliate revenue. So, as the Joker once said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. And to make good money as an affiliate, you really need to be good. For those who don't know what an affiliate program is, an affiliate program rewards people for converting traffic to a company's website. So you can learn a bit more about affiliates and the different companies who are doing that on sites like Commission Junction and Pepperjam. There are really quite a few affiliate platforms. The benefit is, you want to make a little extra money, you have a website, you can go and sign up to be an affiliate for different companies, and then you put a little image and a link on your site, and when somebody follows that link, goes to the company's website, if they make a purchase or sign up, then you get some money for driving that qualified converting traffic to that company. So if you're an affiliate for companies who have visually attractive products, you might be able to make some good money on Pinterest. And if you're a business with an affiliate program and you have attractive products, you should definitely let your affiliates know about this possibility. Because Pinterest allows you to edit the URL for each pin, getting affiliate revenue from your pins is actually really easy. At the same time, Pinterest actually uses affiliate links as part of their monetization strategy. At least they did last I checked. I don't know if that's changing or if it will change, but I think it's a brilliant idea. So if you're wanting to make affiliate money with Pinterest, there's 3 easy steps. Step 1, go to a site with which you have an affiliate relationship and find a product image that you want to pin. pin it up to Pinterest. Step 2, grab your affiliate link from the site or product in question for that individual product, or just if it's for a site general affiliate link. So grab that, and if you want, you can use a URL shortener like bit.ly to shrink down the link. Sometimes affiliate links can get a little unwieldy. And then step 3, go to Pinterest, go to that pin, edit the pin, and then drop in your affiliate URL in the URL field. Save the pin, and that's it. Super easy. You do this often with a lot of images, and the odds are good that you'll make some money from it. The higher the priced item that you pin, the more money you're likely to make off that purchase if someone click-throughs and makes a purchase. Step 11, track everything. So as a business owner or as somebody who works with businesses, definitely track data. I'm an internet marketer. I'm definitely a data geek. I hate guessing, and I much prefer to make decisions by gathering and analyzing good, reliable data. So a number of studies have shown that Pinterest drives quite a bit of referral traffic, and that's something you're going to want to track carefully if you're going to be investing time and effort in this platform for marketing purposes, branding purposes, lead gen, however you choose to use Pinterest. If you're going to be putting effort in, time, money, definitely track things. So within Google Analytics, or whichever analytics platform you happen to use, it should be fairly simple to look at your referral traffic data and just filter that list to show only visits originating from Pinterest. If you have conversion tracking configured, you can always create a conversion funnel that tracks conversions originating from that Pinterest referral traffic. You may also want to set up some multi-touch attribution models in your analytics to better understand how Pinterest impacts your other conversion funnels. Now, if you don't know what multi-touch attribution is, essentially what it means is people tend to interact with companies in a lot of different ways. There are multiple touch points. And every single time somebody sees or interacts with a company, that can be playing a role in their eventual conversion. So a multi-touch attribution shows each of those different touch points and how they kind of figure in to the people who finally convert. It could show you, hey, the people who convert the most found us originally on Facebook, then checked out a Pinterest page, and then came to our site and made a purchase. So you can see how each piece of that kind of fits into the conversion model. Now, doing this is a little complex, but if you want to learn how to do it, just go to Google and look for Avinash Multi-Touch. You'll get some really good info from one of the best analytics guys out there, and that's Avinash spelled A-V-I-N-A-S-H. In addition to data from analytics, Pinterest actually gives you some great info. So there's actually a URL you can go to on Pinterest that'll show you every image that's been pinned from a certain domain name. So it's just pinterest.com/source/yoursite.com. In this case, we went to pinterest.com/source/thinkgeek.com, and now we see a page showing every image pinned from ThinkGeek. It's pretty slick. So this could be useful in a number of ways. You could use this to identify popular products, to give them more visibility on your website. You could use it to spot product segments to which you could add additional products. You could also use this to see if any influencers are pinning your products, or if a handful of users have added a lot of your products. If an influencer's pinned something of yours, or if a handful of people are really active in pinning your products, that's a great time to say thank you. Thanks goes a really long way in social media and in life, so never hesitate to say thanks. Now, if you're managing Pinterest for a client, you're definitely going to want to track metrics that tie directly back to that source. Unique visitors from Pinterest, revenue from Pinterest, bounce rate, time on site, conversion rate from Pinterest traffic, whatever it is that really matters to your client or your company, make an effort to track those metrics. And finally, step 12, copyright and legal concerns. So you've come this far, and you've heard all the positives of using Pinterest, but there seems to really be one major concern, and that comes down to copyrights and the legality of pinning images to Pinterest to which you don't own the rights. So technically, the terms and conditions on Pinterest, if I understand correctly, say that you shouldn't pin anything to which you don't have the rights. Now, obviously, that's kind of a joke, since nobody would be using Pinterest if they could only pin their own images. They'd be using Flickr or maybe Facebook. Pinterest has really grown because people have the ability to pin images from anywhere online. But that said, there are definitely some legal issues here. Pinterest will comply with any legitimate request to remove copyrighted material, but it isn't their job to proactively police that. It's up to you, the user, to be careful about how you do that. Now, if I understand correctly, Pinterest originally claimed rights to images that were pinned, saying that they had the ability to use those, for marketing or whatnot. And again, if I understand them correctly, they've removed that from the terms and conditions since then. So they're not claiming rights to the things you put up there. So one legal concern is no longer so much of a concern. But that said, there are a few things you can do to try and stay on the right side of the law here as somebody pinning images. So number one, make sure you give credit to the source of the image, both via the link and in the description of the pin. Number two, use common sense. If an image is watermarked, or if you can't right-click and save that image if that's been disabled, the odds are good that the owners of those images wouldn't be very happy with you adding them to Pinterest. Of course, you can always use the source URL on the previous slide to see if that image has already been pinned, and if it has, you can just repin that image. But of course, when in doubt, step 3, ask. If you want to pin an image and you aren't sure if it's okay, send an email to the site owner and ask for permission. It's no big deal. And again, on the flip side, we've mentioned this already, but for websites who don't want their images pinned, you can use the meta tag at the top of this page on any page or across a whole site to tell Pinterest, hey, we don't want images on our site pinned. So if you have concerns about this and you don't want people pinning your stuff, definitely make use of that meta tag. And finally, a bonus, number 13, Pinterest tools. So no Pinterest webinar would be complete without mentioning at least a few of the many Pinterest tools that are starting to crop up. These are just a few of the ones that we've found that we think are really good. So number one, pin reach. So this is Pinterest analytics and influence scores. Pretty cool. You can see how active different images are. You can see who the influencers are on Pinterest, the people who are pinning the most or who have the most followers. It can be a great tool to find people in your space who would be good to connect with on Pinterest. Number two, you have pin a quote. Now this allows you to highlight any text and pin that text to Pinterest. Now this is cool, but it's something I would recommend using sparingly. The real value of Pinterest and the user experience is about images and visuals, and having a whole lot of text pinned up on Pinterest would detract from that. So if you think it's a really good fit, go for it, but be sparing with your text pinning. Number three, Pinnerly. So this is a Pinterest dashboard, a lot like TweetDeck or Hootsuite, that allows you to manage Pinterest via a dashboard. You can schedule pins, edit things. Great tool to use if you're going to be managing Pinterest for a business or possibly even multiple businesses. Number four, Pintamatic. So this allows you to pin a variety of cool things beyond images, like music, full-length screenshots of websites, and other things. They're constantly tweaking this to allow you to pin more things. But if you want to put something up other than an image or a video, definitely check out Pintamatic to try that out. And tool number five, PinPuff. So like Clout, but for Pinterest. I'm personally not a fan of Clout, but as a marketer, I can see the benefit. You can use a tool like this to find influencers, a lot like PinReach, and then interact with those people on Pinterest. And there's dozens of other Pinterest tools out there, maybe hundreds, soon to be thousands. But if you know of any good ones that we've missed, please let us know. And that's it. The heart and soul of what Pinterest is and how you can use it for various business purposes. The top link here will take you to a great FAQ/walkthrough provided by Pinterest. If you have questions, the chances are really good that you'll find answers here. And the bottom link will take you to a Pinterest account that's dedicated to tracking all things Pinterest for business, whether it's webinars and infographics, walkthroughs, guides, you name it. If you want to learn more about using Pinterest for your business, definitely check out that second link. And that's it. So this is the last chance to ask questions before we jump into our Q&A.
So Sam, this is probably a good question for you. Does the no pin code block images from the whole site, or is it specific to each page?
So the no pin code is page level, as I understand it. You'll need to put that on each page that you don't want somebody pinning from. And of course, you can always use that site-wide. Just add it to every page on your site. If you're using something like WordPress, it should be really easy to just add that code into the header file. Not too complicated, but it is a page level tag.
So I'll answer this one. I work for a high-end ranch resort and conference center. We do everything from weddings to summer camps. Do you know of a good example of a similar company on Pinterest? I can't think of a similar company that is already doing this on Pinterest, but I have to say that you should definitely go for it and post pictures as long as you have permission from the different weddings and events that you host and of your pretty ranch that you work on, because people will repin that and they'll follow back to your site and they'll put that in there when they're planning a wedding place to ideas for different venues for things. So I think that that's a great vertical to start a Pinterest page for. So let's see here. Sam, do you want to explain again who Avinash is and how you spell his name?
Sure. So Avinash Kaushik, he is a Google engineer, I believe, or was, and he is the single best resource for learning about analytics and using advanced segments in Google Analytics. So you spell his name Avinash, Avinash. And just you Google Avinash multi-touch, and the first result there should be one of his most recent blog posts talking about doing that multi-touch attribution. Highly recommended.
Okay, here's another one for you. Can I upload images to Pinterest without them being on a website, or can I only pin images directly from a site?
You can definitely upload your own images directly from your computer. They don't have to be on any specific website. You could then add in a link to a website if you wanted that image to point somewhere else, but it isn't necessary for the image to be online for you to pin it.
Okay, let's see what else we have here. Is there a way to remove the price banner? I think we might have covered this, but just if you don't have the numbers, the price symbol in your description, then the price banner won't show up on your picture.
So here's a good one. Have you seen any successful male-centric sites or non-sales sites that are doing well with Pinterest? There are a few. So male-centric sites, you have ThinkGeek. 80s Tees is another one I've seen. There was actually an article not too long ago on Mashable that showed some analytics data from a site that was using Pinterest talking about their referral traffic. And they kind of tried to hide it, but I was able to figure out that it was actually 80s Tees they were showing the data for. So they were actually doing really well with Pinterest.
Okay, here's another one. You mentioned many ways to help sell and link to products. How can Pinterest be used for those in the service industry? Like we said in the presentation, as long as you can figure out a visually attractive way to display what you do at your business, you can get people to look at it and repin it. So it's really just being creative about how you want to portray your business on Pinterest. And as long as you have a good way to do this, like with the ranch example before, I think that you can definitely gain traction on Pinterest.
Here's another question on here. Someone asks, how can I join Pinterest? I sent a request for an invite a few weeks ago, but I haven't gotten an invite yet. Do you have an invite you can send me? Unfortunately, no. So the invites are only sent out by Pinterest. Users don't have invites or a number of invites that they can give out. So I would recommend trying to hop back on and try again. 2 weeks is kind of long. Here's another one. So what about legal and copyright issues regarding Pinterest? Once you put an image out there, there's no way to ensure your copyright. That's not actually true. So the person who first creates an image owns the copyright, whether you've legally filed for a copyright or not. You just need to be able to show that you're a creator. So that said, trying to get an image taken down from Pinterest, as far as I understand, you do actually need to get a court order showing that that image is yours and that you want it removed. But you do have some control. Of course, you can't stop people from finding your image online and putting it somewhere else. Where there's a will, there's a way. But if you really have something you don't want people spreading around online, you might not want to put it online, or at least do your best to lock it down on your site so people can't copy, save, or pin that image.
Okay, Sam, here's another one for you. Is the best way to pin just the link with no picture? Would the best way to do this be with Pintamatic? A link with no picture.
I would say, yeah, Pintamatic is one of the best things for pinning something that's not an image. There are a lot of others. If you just Google Pinterest tools, you'll find a ton. But Pintamatic has the best variety. It's the only one I know of that will allow you to pin music, which is pretty cool. But definitely, I mean, spend some time looking around for other tools. You know, check out that last link that goes to the Pinterest Biz page to see some of the other things on there to get more ideas for tools you could use.
Someone suggested also pin a quote.
Cool. Thank you for that suggestion. I think that was one we mentioned. That was number 5 on the Pinterest tools page. And I think that's about it. We're out of time, but we
Okay,
will...
so Sam, I got it. So thanks, Sam. Thanks, Jess. Great job on the webinar today. There were a ton of questions that flooded in, so never fear. We will get back to each and every one of you on these questions. Here is Sam and Jessica's Twitter feed, so if you want to send a question to them directly, feel free to do that as well. We will get a copy of the webinar, on-demand copy, as well as the deck out to everyone that's been attending this week. We thank you for attending, and please listen in next time. Thanks.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.